When World War II came on, I was working on permanent deferment because I was in investigative research for the textile industry, and I worked for White Machine Works in Whiteville, the largest textile machinery company in the world. And I didn't have to go in, but I finally decided, oh, what the devil, everybody else was going in. And I'd go home at the weekend and I'd, well, what's he doing here? My boy's overseas. Well, I heard enough of that to kind of turn me off. So I went up to Boston and went into the Air Force first, but they didn't have anything to offer me. If I wanted to be a tail gunner or something, but I said, I don't need that. And I went over to the Navy, and they said, hey, we might be looking for a fellow like you. I said, well, you talk and I'll listen. So France had a new boat called Normandy, and it came over and berthed in New York. It was a cruise liner, the biggest in the world at the time. Well, this was just about the time that Hitler was taking over France, and the United States government determined that he wasn't going to get a hold of that boat because it was the finest there was. They wanted to make it for a troop ship. And so I went in there. Oh, and somebody sabotaged the thing and just sunk to the gunnels. And so I went in and they asked me what I'd done. I told them I'd supervised developing items and that I had a crew of men with heavy equipment. And they said, that's just what we're looking for. We want somebody to go over and strip that boat. I said, okay. They said, no boot camp, no nothing. You'll come right in as a second-class machinist mate in the regular Navy. I said, that's fine. And by the time I came back, the saboteurs had got at the boat again and sunk it to the bottom. And the Navy cut up a scrap, but they just made sure Hitler wasn't going to get it. So they called me into the main office again and said, well, that project's dead. So they said, we got a project where we're making those landing barges, you know, the ones that go up on the beach. And we're making them all in the central part of the country. But we're not quite happy with the quality. And would you like to be in a group that's going to pick those boats up and find out what's wrong with them? Because we'd come from, Keokuk, Iowa, there was a place there. And we'd take the boats out to Missouri, to the Mississippi, and go up the Mississippi to Chicago at the Drainage Canal and go up to Navy Pier. Then we'd go across Lake Erie, come out at Niagara Falls, and they had to put a boat across because 3 boats went right over the falls originally. And we went down New York State Barge Canal to New York City. Well, then they changed their headquarters to St. Louis. And I went out to pick up a boat at Keokuk, Iowa. And the crew, these were young kids, and they in the boat were going to be gunfire at Iwo Jima, you know, down there with the Japs. We came across the lakes, and it was a little difficult because these kids were green as grass, and we had one that was a watch, one watch, and I had the main watch, and they signed closed all the valves and the motor, the engines, because there's 3 engines in it, and so I told them to go ahead. I'd do the watch, next watch. Well, because she didn't close one of them. And I didn't really know much of anything. The next time I came to, I was at Great Lakes Naval Hospital. And they figured I was not going to make it. They brought my folks out, flew them out special. And I was in there. I could not digest any food at all. And they put me in a special room, which is unusual, but I have my own private nurse and everything. And but they wouldn't. I guess I was too tough a yank to bite the bullet, so they finally retired me because of the problem. Because I was a year on baby food, which is utter junk. And then I slowly started to pick up a little steam, and been going that I worked some, but very restricted. But then I took a couple of years off and I felt much better, and so I went back onto this job. As I traveled this country and overseas, and I had 5 operating divisions I was responsible for. And finally I came back, started my own company, which I ran for 5 years and sold it. And then I moved to the Cape, and I kind of active down there in various, chairman of various committees, the airport and the sewage division, and I worked on a health center project that was kind of wavering in the breeze. They didn't have the right crew to do it, and so they asked me to step in and help them there, which I did. So I've had a lot of fun jobs, all precious stuff, but I liked it. And so I lived there in Chatham for 20 years. My folks were, my father was from Calais, Maine, and my mother came from the Cape. So that I stayed there, and then I built a cottage colony, which is kind of popular down on Cape Cod. And finally, I started to have a little bit of heart trouble. And so my nephew wanted to buy it, so I sold it. So we had 7 houses there. And I was talking with somebody that knew about this place. And J.J. Weaver, I think it's Weaver there, a real estate guy. I went down and saw him, and he told me, he brought me down and he showed me. And he said, well, I kind of think you'll like this area better than the other areas. And this people that owned this was a young fellow and a wife, and they were going to have a baby, and they wanted a house. And so I came down one Friday night, and J.J. Weaver's man came with me, and we came in and we looked it over, and I liked the place. They'd done a good job. And I says, I'll give you a certified bank check for so much money, but you got to tell me tonight, because I knew they had a private house they wanted to buy. So I said, fine. So we moved down here about a month later. It's over 8 years now. And I was quite active in a lot of projects in there, but then finally I operate on a defibrillator now. And it works quite well. And I rest a lot, because this walking pneumonia kind of floors you a little bit, you know. But I still try to be alert, and I listen to things, and I put some projects coming up on TV, I make sure to listen to them. And I would not want to go back. I like it here. This particular part, because we have 3/4 of the total area of Belle Isle in this regime 1, which gives us, you know, a lot of room. And I enjoy living there. I don't think I'd go back up there again. I like no snow, for one thing. The storm on Lake Erie, there was 2 or 3 boats sunk. You remember that old boat that disappeared? Well, it was in that same storm. And the storm was so bad it broke the lifting bow on this boat that we was on. But we got through it somehow, too mean to die. And we went down, and that was the next trip that we got these kids they were just out of the pits of the country, you know, because they were going on a one-way trip. And that, I think they knew it, because they were really tough little muggers. And as I say, I had trying to show the kid how to operate the machinery and stuff like that. And so I said, well, from now on, you do all the valves, shut off all the exhaust valves and everything, because we were moored at a wharf. And so he came up and says, all set, I'm all set. I said, fine, go ahead. So I said, I'll take the watch. And the motors were left running to give us power and all. And the next thing I knew, I woke up in Great Lakes Naval Hospital. And I was there, a good part of 6 months. And they flew my folks out the second day I was there. They figured I wasn't going to make it. Well, all I know is that for the following year, after I got my discharge for physical disability, I went down to Cape, and there was an old fellow, he was shellfish warden, and there was a big, long neck of land that he patrolled. And so he used to take me, I was on baby food for a year, and he was so good, he'd take me out, we'd ride up in the, you know, and see everything. But for a year, I didn't really leave the property except with him. And I was sick on baby food because it had destroyed my digestive system. And then they came up with a new solution. I can't eat everything, but I can eat a hearty meal. And I worked steadily, and it was after I got back and got supposedly healthy, I moved out and started my own company, which I don't know, Catawba, there's a big paper mill up there. Biggest mill in the world, paper mill. And I designed and built the special equipment for handling the felts and that, and they said it couldn't be done, but we designed it and built it. They just, unavoidable accident. They never, but they never questioned it. I had that, which was unheard of. I had that private room, and I had my own nurse, and they flew my folks out the second day from Boston out to the hospital to see me because they figured I wasn't going to live, and I was just a little too tough a yank for them. Carbon dioxide destroyed my digestive system, and they experimented and finally got something that worked. I can't eat everything, but I can put a good meal away, and I did. I took it easy for a couple of years. As I say, for 1 year I lived at Cape and I did nothing but just ride around my buddy, and that was all. But I think that helped me. But and I had to go up every so often for exam, and they finally said, well, you've come back as good as you can, but for your age, you're better than a lot of guys. Once I got out of the hospital and got home, maybe once a year I had to go to Boston. But one of the old country doctors that I saw, he says, I'll get you back part way. But he said, you know, he said, you're so at a certain age and you aren't going to be a spring chicken anymore. But I did a lot of work afterwards. You know.
Did the VA follow up with you and give you treatment and stuff?
Well, I got a pension. And no, my own doctor, I told him, I said, I'd rather have my own doctor take care of me. And they agreed. They researched him and said he's fully qualified. And so he worked with me. And but there was a number of years when, well, the first year I was practically on baby food. But my whole body was healthy, except for that.
Yeah.
And so I was able to somewhat overcome it. And I kind of feel I'm in pretty good shape for 90. I think that the Navy lived up to their responsibilities. They didn't say, well, see you later, alligator, or anything, you know. Some of the details were a little rough, but I think they had some kind of a program that never materialized. Because I was on permanent deferment, I didn't have to go in. And as I say, I just briefly tell you, I went to the Air Force first, but I didn't want to fly. I was looking for groundwork, and they didn't have it. And I went over to 1st Naval District Headquarters in Boston, and this old chief came over to me and said, what are you looking for? I said, well, I'm going to see if you got something that I'd like to do. So he says, what do you do? And I told him how I handle machinery and 5-6 man crews and all that. Oh, he says, hey, sit down. So I sat down, and about half an hour later he comes and says, come with me. So I went in this room, and boy, there was more gold in there than you could shake a stick at. All commanders and stuff. And they outlined this Normandy sinking. And they said, do you think you could handle moving that heavy stuff with a decent crew? I said, yeah. I said, I don't think it's any problem. So they said, well, you'll come, you sign the papers and we'll give you a second-class machinist rate to start. No boot camp. And so I came and went in the Fargo building in South Boston, and then they gave up on the Normandy and cut it up for junk, because its second attempt to sabotage it really ruined it. And so they asked me to go on to this detail of taking these landing barges. Well, it wasn't a bad detail, but you had kids that they all knew it was one-way street. I joined in Boston June the 1st, 1942. And you wonder when I went out. Here it's got to be Great Lakes, Illinois, 5/11/43. I retired about 10 years ago when I sold my company. And I had the privilege of building the biggest boat roller in the world. I designed for up there in Catawba, and it had a sheet of felt, woven felt, 40 feet wide. They said it couldn't be done, and we took the contract and fulfilled the honor. But I didn't have, I was never a drinking fellow. That was one thing. My mother was a strict teetotaler. She hated to see vinegar that would sour like cider. But I think that helped. And I learned that when you get tired, you don't try to buck the tide, you know. But I've had a good life. I can't. I've thoroughly enjoyed it down here. And with the people you meet. I mean, there's a few of them that I wouldn't want to meet again, but generally I find the people, because I joined the library up there, and I used to go up, and I was thinking of writing a book, but it just didn't materialize, you know. I felt that I couldn't concentrate quite enough, but I've had fun. I don't know what's going to end, but I don't worry about it. When you're almost kissing it, you don't worry when you're alive. Well, I tell you, I've adopted a philosophy. If I made the decision to do something, I had to investigate it thoroughly. Because I down in Chatham, we had a bad trouble with sewage disposal. And we ended up, the government gave them a $30 million sewer project. And they were in bad trouble, and the secretary called me up and says, Henry, can you come in and take it over and straighten it out? So we did, and today they've got a $300 million project to finish what we started. And it's those kind of things that make your life worthwhile. Never have many defeats, I'll say that. And those things weren't built right enough to take much of a beat. I don't know how they ever got enough men to shore, because all the batteries were just aiming at them. You know, one shell placed correctly could just destroy that thing.
These were the LSTs.
Yeah, but it was interesting. They said they were having trouble with the quality of the boats built inland. Now, all the boat yards on the coast were full. And they said, we suspect that there's a little hanky-panky going on. So we went out there. I think it was Cape Cod, Iowa. I picked one of them up. The motors were built by General Motors, so they were all right. But there were certain items in the boat that wasn't quite what it should be. But you're going to be blowing up the first trip, so. And they investigated one boat that we got out of there. And they found that the women were getting piecework. And so they were taking the welding rods and putting them in the joints, taking the tip, because they were paid by the tips, and putting the whole rod in the joint, and then welding the side of it. So I wasn't authorized to do it, but we reported it, because you could tell that boat. And then one of the nice experiences, I took a 300-footer from Manitowoc, Wisconsin, where all the submarines are built. And we took that all the way to New Orleans. And she had 2 big diesel engines like these locomotives you have on the railroad. And it was a powerful voice, 30 feet down to the engine room. And, but it was, I can't say that I had a good experience in the Navy. I never had to go to boot camp. These guys lived up to the thing. They didn't know that the Normandy was going to be resunk, but they called me in and said, it's gone. I said, so what do you want me to do? They said, we got another project. And so I started on to it. And we were both successful, so what can we say? You know? But I'm enjoying myself now. When you get to be 90, you don't know how many more, but I've had such a full life that I can't complain.